allows customers and importers to better pinpoint where they want to make their purchases. We do an annual quality survey. We've done this, I think, for 27 years. And in our quality survey, we receive samples from across the United States in the autumn right after harvest, and we do an analysis of the protein, oil in those soybeans, and we geographically show state by state, and in fact now our quality survey breaks it down to county by county, where protein and oil seems to be high, where it seems to be low, where it might be balanced. And with containerized trade, you can take a look at some of that quality information and better direct your purchases. So if the center of the Corn Belt is not providing the same kind of quality as it traditionally does, you might be able to move your purchases to the eastern side of the Corn Belt or on the western side of the Corn Belt, for example. Bo mentioned this in his presentation, but for example, if you are able to identify an ethanol plant whose DDGS you think is particularly suitable for your applications, with the containerized trade, you're able to source from that plant. Another another example could be with soybean meal. I'll tell you, the Soybean Export Council, at the suggestion of John Bays, met with a large U.S. exporter of soybean meal. And at that meeting, we were trying to get them to consider marketing a value-added meal. We were trying to impart upon them that they have certain meal from certain of their plants are already perceived in the international marketplace as being a soybean meal of a higher quality. And the meal exporter at that particular company was saying to us, well, we couldn't really market meal that way because if, for example, we need 20,000 metric tons to be put into a combo vessel and we only have 15,000 metric tons, we'll buy 5,000 metric tons from somebody else or bring it in from another plant, put that on top of it, and then it wouldn't be meal from this particular plant. Well, with all due respect to that individual, with containers, you can do that. So this is one of the reasons why the producers support this logistic model. The other thing is that for soybean producers who happen to be fortunate enough to be in an area where there is a large amount of soybeans being loaded into containers, they have realized higher soybean prices. In talking with a couple of the people that are in the Chicago area, where a lot of soybeans are being loaded in containers, they think that they are netting about a 15 cents premium per bushel. And that's really something hard to take if you're in an area that's not close to Decatur, because already the basis is very good, very beneficial to farmers in Illinois, and to give them another 15% on top just because they happen to live near Chicago is an advantage that a lot of farmers don't like. But they always want to, the mission of ASA and the mission of USB is to make U.S. soybean farmers, wherever they are, more profitable. So if this logistics model can make some soybean producers more profitable in that locale, they're very much interested in supporting that. And lastly, this logistics model allows or has allowed more U.S. exporters to participate in the trans-Pacific and transatlantic markets than had been previously the case. Under the old logistics model of break bulk vessel, if you didn't have an export terminal at a port, it was really difficult for you to be involved in the export trade. Well, with the increase in container traffic, the increase in demand from from international customers for containerized trade, we've seen many more parties that are able to get involved in the export trade, and the farmers view that as good for competition, and what's good for competition benefits you as customers, and it benefits them as suppliers. And the last thing that I would mention that I don't have here on the slide, that for the time being that the farmers, one of the reasons the farmers support this logistics model is that it right now favors the United States more so than it does some of our competitors. Right now, the South American suppliers aren't in a position to be able to load containers at the same type of volume and service this trade in the same way. So for this time period, because the containerized trade does favor U.S. shippers, the farmers are very much interested in supporting this logistics model. The ways in which investments have been made to support the logistics model is in the areas of research and promotion, and then also some programming. In terms of research, in 2005, when the farmers, as I mentioned, they got back from Taiwan, they were very interested in this logistics model. They wanted a survey done to see what is the long-term potential of this logistics model. They conducted that survey, and they circulated that information to any agribusiness in the United States that might be interested in taking a look at the model and seeing if there was a way in which they could fit in. In 2006, they did a very similar type of survey, but with that survey, they wanted to gear it towards economic development officials involved in state soybean boards or various state governments or local governments to give them information about how they might be able to tap into this logistics model and expand it a little bit more. In 2007, we did research on Taiwan. Taiwan, by far, is the largest recipient of soy and corn in containers. And the industry there has made some very significant investments in their infrastructure, their plant infrastructure, their receiving infrastructure, as well as investments in the equipment to move the containers from the port to their plants. And we did research on those investments and what the trade had to do there, with the idea that we wanted to provide that information on as wide a basis as possible, so that any company in Southeast Asia, North Asia, Europe, the Mediterranean wanted to see the types of investments that they might need to make in order to make containerized logistics viable. They could look at this report. In 2008, this year we're doing research on how to ensure the preservation of the quality of U.S. soybean meal shipped in containers. We're also doing research on the European market for soy in containers. And next year we have proposed, and it's approved for funding, to do research in this market and how we might be able to work more closely to expand the opportunities for soy in containers in Southeast Asia. We've also hosted or organized a number of conferences. We've done 2 conferences on this logistics model in China. It would make a lot of sense. China's being our largest soy importing market. It's certainly where most of the containers that come into the United States need to return to. And so we've done some conferences to inform and educate the trade there about how the logistics model work and how they might be able to participate in it. Another example of the conferencing that we do would be the focus that we provided in this conference, as well as last year's grain transportation conference on the containerized logistics. And in November, we are organizing a national conference in the United States where we're bringing together the shippers, the transportation providers, the international customers, all to come together to talk about issues related to what is the future outlook for this logistics model. The other thing that we do is that whenever we have teams in the United States and they indicate that they're interested in seeing container loading facilities and also meeting with companies that can provide them with soy as well as corn and other feed ingredients in containers, we set up those meetings and provide the opportunity for those 2 parties to meet and get together. So that is a background as to why U.S. soybean producers in ASA and the United Soybean Board support this logistics model. One, they view it as an opportunity to provide customers export customers with better quality, provide customers with the soybeans or the soy that they need and want at that given time. It brings more competition to the marketplace, and also at this point it favors U.S. suppliers. Now I'm going to turn to some thoughts that we have about the future of this logistics model. And I'm really just going to talk about 2 broad areas in particular. The first is the actual cost of delivery of soybeans into a marketplace through containers, and then also an issue that I view as having some